The Master Maid, a Norwegian fairy tale, Part 1. Once upon a time there was a king who had many sons. I do not exactly know how many there were, but the youngest of them could not stay quietly at home, and was determined to go out into the world and try his luck, and after a long time the king was forced to give him leave to go. When he had traveled about for several days, he came to a giant's house, and hired himself to the giant as a servant. In the morning the giant had to go out to pasture his goats, and as he was leaving the house he told the king's son that he must clean out the stable. "And after you have done that," he said, "you need not do any more work today, for you have come to a kind master, and that you shall find. But what I set you to do must be done both well and thoroughly, and you must on no account go into any of the rooms which lead out of the room in which you slept last night. If you do, I will take your life." "Well, to be sure, he is an easy master," said the prince to himself, as he walked up and down the room humming and singing, for he thought there would be plenty of time left to clean out the stable. "But it would be amusing to steal a glance into his other rooms as well," thought the prince, "for there must be something that he is afraid of my seeing, as I am not allowed to enter them." So he went into the first room. A cauldron was hanging from the walls. It was boiling, but the prince could see no fire under it. "I wonder what's inside it," he thought, and dipped a lock of his hair in, and the hair became just as if it were made all of copper. "That's a nice kind of soup. If anyone were to taste that, his throat would be gilded," said the youth, and then he went into the next chamber. There, too, a cauldron was hanging from the wall, bubbling and boiling, but there was no fire under this either. "I will just try what this is like, too," said the prince, thrusting another lock of his hair into it, and it came out silvered over. "Such costly soup is not to be had in my father's palace," said the prince, "but everything depends on how it tastes." And then he went into the third room. There, too, a cauldron was hanging from the wall, boiling, exactly the same as in the two other rooms, and the prince took pleasure in trying this also. So he dipped a lock of hair in, and it came out so brightly gilded that it shone again. "Some talk about going from bad to worse," said the prince, "but this is better and better. If he boils gold here, what can he boil in there?" He was determined to see, and went through the door into the fourth room. No cauldron was to be seen there, but on a bench someone was seated who was like a king's daughter, but whoever she was so beautiful that never in the prince's life had he seen her equal. "Oh, in heaven's name, what are you doing here?" said she who sat upon the bench. "I took the place of servant here yesterday," said the prince. "May you soon have a better place, if you have come to serve here," said she. "Oh, but I think I've got a kind master," said the prince. "He has not given me hard work to do today. When I have cleaned out the stable, I shall be done." "Yes, but how will you be able to do that?" she asked again. "If you clean it out as other people do, 10 pitchforks full will come in for every one you throw out. But I will teach you how to do it. You must turn your pitchfork upside down and work with the handle, and then all will fly out of its own accord." "Yes, I will attend to that," said the prince, and stayed sitting where he was the whole day, for it was soon settled between them that they would marry each other, he and the king's daughter. So the first day of his service with the giant did not seem long to him. But when evening was drawing near, she said that it would now be better for him to clean out the stable before the giant came home. When he got there, he had a fancy to try if what she had said were true, so he began to work in the same way that he had seen the stable boys doing in his father's stables. But he soon saw that he must give up that, for when he had worked a very short time, he had scarcely any room left to stand. So he did what the princess had taught him, turned the pitchfork round, and worked with the handle, and in the twinkling of an eye the stable was as clean as if it had been scoured. When he had done that, he went back again into the room in which the giant had given him leave to stay, and there he walked backward and forward on the floor, and began to hum and sing. Then came the giant home with the goats. "Have you cleaned the stable?" asked the giant. "Yes, now it is clean and sweet, master," said the king's son. "I shall see about that," said the giant, and went round to the stable, but it was just as the prince had said. "You have certainly been talking to my Master Maid, for you never got that out of your own head," said the giant. "Master Maid? What kind of a thing is that, master?" said the prince, making himself look as stupid as an ass. "I should like to see that." "Well, you will see her quite soon enough," said the giant. On the second morning the giant had again to go out with his goats, so he told the prince that on that day he was to fetch home his horse, which was out on the mountainside, and when he had done that he might rest himself for the remainder of the day. "For you have come to a kind master, and that you shall find," said the giant once more. "But do not go into any of the rooms that I spoke of yesterday, or I will wring your head off," said he, and then he went away with his flock of goats. "Yes, indeed, you are a kind master," said the prince. "But I will go in and talk to the Master Maid again. Perhaps before long she may like better to be mine than yours." So he went to her. Then she asked him what he had to do that day. "Oh, not very dangerous work, I fancy," said the king's son. "I have only to go up the mountainside after his horse." "Well, how do you mean to set about it?" asked the Master Maid. "Oh, there is no great art in riding a horse home," said the king's son. "I think I must have ridden friskier horses before now." "Yes, but it is not so easy a thing as you think to ride the horse home," said the Master Maid. "But I will teach you what to do. When you go near it, fire will burst out of its nostrils like flames from a pine torch. But be careful, and take the bridle which is hanging by the door there, and fling the bit straight into his jaws, and then it will become so tame that you will be able to do what you like with it." He said that he would bear this in mind, and then again he sat there the whole day by the Master Maid, and they chatted and talked of one thing and another. But the first thing and last now was how happy and delightful it would be if they could but marry each other and get safely away from the giant. And the prince would have forgotten both the mountainside and the horse if the Master Maid had not reminded him of them as evening drew near, and said that now it would be better if he went to fetch the horse before the giant came. So he did this, and took the bridle which was hanging on a crook, and strode up the mountainside, and it was not long before he met with the horse, and fire and red flames streamed forth out of its nostrils. But the youth carefully watched his opportunity, and just as it was rushing at him with open jaws, he threw the bit straight into its mouth, and the horse stood as quiet as a young lamb, and there was no difficulty at all in getting it home to the stable. Then the prince went back into his room again and began to hum and sing. Toward evening the giant came home. "Have you fetched the horse back from the mountainside?" he asked. "That I have, master. It was an amusing horse to ride, but I rode him straight home and put him in the stable too," said the prince. "I will see about that," said the giant, and went out to the stable, but the horse was standing there just as the prince had said. "You have certainly been talking with my Master Maid, for you never got that out of your own head," said the giant again. "Yesterday, master, you talked about this Master Maid, and today you are talking about her. Ah, heaven bless you, master. Why will you not show me the thing? For it would be a real pleasure to me to see it," said the prince, who again pretended to be silly and stupid. "Oh, you will see her quite soon enough," said the giant. On the morning of the third day, the giant again had to go into the wood with the goats. "Today you must go underground and fetch my taxes," he said to the prince. "When you have done this, you may rest for the remainder of the day, for you shall see what an easy master you have come to." And then he went away. "Well, however easy a master you may be, you set me very hard work to do," thought the prince. "But I will see if I cannot find your Master Maid. You say she is yours, but for all that, she may be able to tell me what to do now." And he went back to her. So when the Master Maid asked him what the giant had set him to do that day, he told her that he was to go underground and get the taxes. "And how will you set about that?" said the Master Maid. "Oh, you must tell me how to do it," said the Prince, "for I have never yet been underground, and even if I knew the way, I do not know how much I am to demand." "Oh, yes, I will soon tell you all that. You must go to the rock there under the mountain ridge, and take the club that is there, and knock on the rocky wall," said the Master Maid. "Then someone will come out who will sparkle with fire. You shall tell him your errand, and when he asks you how much you want to have, you are to say, 'As much as I can carry.'" "Yes, I will keep that in mind," said he. And then he sat there with the Master Maid the whole day, until night drew near, and he would gladly have stayed there till now if the Master Maid had not reminded him that it was time to be off to fetch the taxes before the giant came. End of Part 1.